Veronica. I was born in Mexico. It's kind of funny because I live right next to El Paso, which is, well, in Mexico, in the sense of Mexico. I was born 10 minutes away from El Paso, which is literally 10 minutes away from the borderline, which is right next to the United States. So that's really interesting. So when people ask me where you were born, I was born in Mexico, but it's funny because I literally was born 10 minutes away from the borderline. Are Mexican, and I love them, and I respect them, and that's my heritage too. I'm Mexican, but I consider myself Mexican American. I don't just consider myself Mexican. If I said I consider myself Mexican, I would be lying because I grew up here in Colorado. It's kind of like I have both cultures ingrained in me. And I love both cultures, but I just, I tend to take the best out of both of them. I mean, my parents, we were coming for vacation. It wasn't meant for me to actually stay here, or them. But they realized that I had a better future here. Of course, with my brother. I have an older brother, and they thought it was a great idea for them to stay here because it seemed like I would have a brighter future and I wouldn't struggle as much as I would in Mexico, because it's just, we live in a really dangerous city, and women would get, raped all the time. Kids would get kidnapped. Um, it was a dangerous place to live in, and cars wouldn't stop if you would be crossing the street. And economically, my parents didn't have a lot. Um, they basically, they would leave me and my brother at the house because they both had to work, and they would come back home around 12 p.m. at night, I remember. So I would just stay home with my brother, and we would watch cartoons. And the cartoons that we watched weren't in Spanish. They were actually in English, because, like I said, we live 10 minutes away from the U.S. So all of the shows that you watch here in the U.S., we would watch them in Mexico. With my parents, I always speak Spanish, to respect for them, and my family. I speak both languages with my cousins because they were born here, and so they speak English and Spanish at the same time. So I tend to speak both languages with them. But for my parents, it's different because they speak more Spanish than they do English. But I speak Spanish with them all the time. I feel like some of them do, um, and some of them choose to, keep both cultures like myself. So we don't necessarily belong to one or the other. We're just kind of in the middle of two worlds, which is the American world and the Hispanic world. No, I don't. I'm really limited on what I can do and what I can't do. Since I recently received deferred action, I can drive now, which I couldn't. Um, I would say maybe like about 8 months ago, I couldn't drive because there's no way I could get a license. Um, because I wasn't born here, and so to get a license, you need your birth certificate, or you need your bill, and you um, you basically need things to prove that you were born here in the U.S. and that you're able to apply to get a license. And so I wasn't able to drive um, because I didn't have those documents. So I couldn't drive until deferred action came into play, which basically it's for, for a small criteria group of people that have been here in the U.S. since they were little. They were brought here to the U.S. by no choice or decision of their own, and they lived here since then. So basically, we have a little bit of more opportunity. We can go to school. We can pay, if since I've lived here since I was 8, I'm able to now get in-state tuition, and about a year ago I couldn't, even though I've lived here a long time. So it was really expensive for me to go to school.